Hi, this is the Olfi One Five Black. It's the update to the Olfi One Five. When you look at the specifications, resolution and frame rates, you might think, there's not a great deal different here compared with the last version. That is, until you look at those new features. And they're not all to do with resolution and frame rates, getting those high numeric values, more about usability. How will this camera actually be used in the field and by the users? That's one thing Olfi are really good at. So the new feature-wise, we've got microphone in, which is really good. That goes through the micro USB port. And we've also got much better battery management. So it now retains all the user features or user settings such as time, date, and also it prolongs the life of your battery. You get up to an hour and a half of recording time, and the amount of recharge for that battery through the camera is an awful lot better. Other things that have really been updated are the extended time lapse. So you can now shoot long time lapses on the Olfi One Five Black. And a lot of people are using the Olfi One Five as a dashboard cam. So there's a lot of new features there to improve its dash cam abilities. Now, the other thing is, as with the original, the Olfi comes in this semi-hard case. So unlike many of the other action cameras on the market where the packaging is simply thrown away, the Olfi One Five supplies you with something which is ultimately useful. When you use the new microphone feature, there is actually another case that you can get which has a port on the side which enables you to screw in and screw out the external cable, which is all very handy, and that's available for a small extra cost. So new feature wise, it's quite an upgrade, especially for people wanting to use the camera for vlogging, but actually resolution frame rates wise, it's much the same. So what are those? Let's run through the basic features. So resolutions, we do have 4K, but it's only 24 frames per second. Got 1080p at 60 frames per second, 720p at 120 frames per second. So pretty good. It does use a Sony sensor inside. I'm not sure what the processor is, but that should mean that we get pretty good image quality. It's also got image stabilization, which is obviously good. It's a big hot topic, especially with Hypersmooth from GoPro at the moment. And in test that worked pretty well, but I'll come on to that in a bit. We've also got connectivity, is always a big one. So got mini USB and micro HDMI, so you can plug it into your TV if you so wish. And we've also got Wi-Fi and RF, which is for the remote. And actually Olfi do make quite a nice remote control for their cameras. That's pretty much it. On the back we've got this LCD, the speaker here, and I think the microphone's just underneath there. Around the body we've got 4 buttons, got power and shutter, and then we've got up and down for the navigation just to find our way around settings. See, this is a bit of an old traditional case, so we've got the secondary lock just on the lever lock here. That's really something which I'm not that keen on, especially in cold weather. It's about 0 today, it's about -3 earlier on, and it's almost impossible. All these locks are almost impossible to open and close in cold weather. Take the camera out and you do notice that this case is one up on quality from most. It's like really good, tough and strong, really like that. It's got a nice flat lens there. There is a slight bevel around the edge, but in the winter with all the crud going around, it's pretty easy just to give that a good clean. It's really nice and easy. Now, one thing you notice about the Olfi One Five when it comes out, it's a really solid, well-made piece of kit. It's got a slight rubberized finish, which is really nice. And if I switch it on, do you see the Olfi starts to glow? Really nice feature. And then if I hit record, it will start to flash. It's just a really nice feature, and it just, when you've attached the camera onto the bike or somewhere where you can't really get it, if you've operated it through the app, then it just highlights in sort of very big bold that it's working. Now, I've used this in bright sunlight, and actually you can just about make out that flash in pretty much all lighting conditions, which is just a really nice feature. Stop that recording, nothing. As you see, that back screen is really quite nice, and that speaker is pretty good. So when you're reviewing footage, it's, you can hear back what you have recorded. If I just flick through the settings, then here we've got video photo mode, playback, video lapse, slow-mo, time lapse, burst mode, underwater, FPV if you attach this to a drone, motion detection, so you can set it running, anyone walks in, so you can use it as a bit of a security camera. That's the car mode, dash cam mode, which is very good. If you've got the little remote control, then you can use that just here, and we can go into the setup here, and we've got a resolution and frame rates. And we just use navigation to go up and down. So there you can see we've got 720p at 120 frames per second and 4K at 24 frames per second. So it's a really neat little camera. There's your two ports, USB, HDMI, micro SD port on the side, and you've got the speaker unit just there. So it's a really nice compact little camera, but the one thing that really stands out is its build quality. It's absolutely superb. So in use it's really good. It's got the standard GoPro mount on the bottom of the housing, and once that's attached to your bike or whatever, it works in exactly the same way as any other action camera with that type of mount. It's a good snug fit. Operation is pretty easy. I tend to use the app on my phone just because then I don't have to take it out of the case or use these buttons. These buttons are the old traditional style. I'm not overly keen on this style of case anymore, especially with all the new touchscreens. Much more intuitive, but what Olfi I think have decided to do is to go for a quality of camera over the sort of the later technology. So you go back to this style, and actually the mechanical sort of direct push button is quite good. I just use the app, it's that much quicker and easier to use. Video quality is all pretty good. It's supposed to have much better low light performance than the previous generation. In bright conditions it's really good, especially at 1080p 60 frames per second. Motion's really smooth, and it's got really good sort of detail, contrast and colour. There is a little bit of pixelation at 60 frames per second that you can see, and you can start to see sort of the limits of the dynamic range, especially in the shadow regions. It tends to do really well with highlights, but not so well with dark shadows, and that's really apparent when you're in low light. If you move it up to 4K 24 frames per second, it's really good for scene setting, but you can't really use it for action footage, and you'll start to really see that footage become juddery. But otherwise it's a really nice compact heavyweight camera, designed ultimately for extreme sports, and it's got the build quality to match it. The guys at Olfi are obviously, they're really into their action cameras and into their sports, so this camera kind of reflects that user base. It's a camera which has been designed and developed through customer feedback to essentially give them what they want. Decent camera at a reasonable price. If you do want slow motion, you do have it at 720p. It'd be nice to have seen that at 1080, but maybe that'll be in the next generation. But yeah, ultimately it's a very neat, tidy and very solid camera. It doesn't have the cheapness of build that some of the other cameras that come in at around £150 have. This is as good a quality as they come, but because of that quality, you are getting some limitation on features. Ultimately, the Olfi One Five Black is an excellent camera. It's a reasonable price at £150. It's good, solid, and compared with other £150 cameras, you can really feel that quality. But for that quality, you are getting a reduction in some of the latest specifications and features. There's no touchscreen, there's no voice activation, no GPS, no motion sensors or anything like that. But you do have a really good image stabilization. It does affect the image quality slightly, but it really does work well at stabilizing out the footage. It's also a real pleasure to use, and the fact that it's got an excellent app and Apple Watch app and Android if you use Android. So yeah, it's a great buy. I have to say that I have recommended this to people and they have bought it and they've been really happy with it. So that's the Olfi One Five Black. If you've got any questions or comments, then please leave them in the box below. Otherwise, head on over to camerajabber.com for the full review.